Hey YouTubers, good morning, Robb. Guys, today we're going to do a video response to Chef Buck. Does anybody do video responses anymore? I know years ago on YouTube that was something people did. I don't see them too much anymore. But anyway, Buck, over to Chef Buck channel, him and his wife, Camera Girl, they did a video on their favorite top 10 spices they take on the road. And I thought it'd be fun to go over my top 10 spices. I don't take them on the road. I take them under the blankets when I read the news, but I don't go anywhere. Who goes outside anymore? No, all kidding aside. We're going to do my 10 favorite out of all my spices and flavorings. And I think it's going to be kind of interesting because we're going to lay in some stories here and there. And not your usual Robb's Homemade Life cooking video, but I think it's going to be fun nevertheless. This is going to be a long one, so get yourself something, your favorite beverage. And by the way, if you don't know who Chef Buck is, you haven't been watching my channel. Down at the bottom of my channel, I have a bunch of people I feature on my channel. No relation to me, they would not anyway. And been watching Chef Buck for years. He first started out, I noticed him, he was doing comedy videos that were hilarious, that like mine, nobody watched. And so he started doing cooking videos, and now he's doing really great. Him and his wife, Camera Girl. And I think you want to check him out. Other people on my channel cook too. You want to check out sometimes Brad, BC Blade, BC Truck, and a lot of different people cook. You want to check out Brad's channel. YouTube's been giving him a hard time. He's been focusing on making knives that are works of art. They take on week to week. And they recently said, well, we can't put advertising on your videos because they're a weapon. Like, they're works of art. They should be in a museum. YouTube needs to get their act together. They're going to lose a lot of good creators. Let's get started. Did you think we were going to talk about 10 spices and we were never going to get there? So, man overboard. Let's start for the first one. This is Basil. Every time I say Basil, I think of the John Cleese in Fawlty Towers. Basil! I never use Basil. I hardly ever use Basil. I don't know why I bought it. Nutmeg. Nutmeg, I have a book I sell, or CD on eBay. It's like 200 old cookbooks. Some of them are very old, like 17th, 18th century. Back then, several hundred years ago, nutmeg, people were crazy about this spice. Every single recipe, it was like, I went back in time and every recipe had parsley flakes and salad olives, People back then were crazy about nutmeg. I use it now and then, trying to understand the fascination with it. I think what it was is this is all they had. Like, if you do some research on different things like kerosene, years ago, people used kerosene for all sorts of things because they were insane, but also because they didn't have anything else, and occasionally it worked. But I'm not comparing nutmeg to kerosene, although in large quantities, nutmeg is not too healthy for you. But I think it's an interesting flavor, but I just haven't developed a fascination that our ancestors have. It's not on my list of top 10. Cream of tartar. I used this in a science experiment, I think, and maybe one or two recipes with eggs, whites, and so on. But I've never said, oh gosh, I have to run to the store and get cream of tartar. It's not on my top list. Garlic. Garlic is definitely on my top list. Fresh garlic or powdered garlic. I don't cook often enough with garlic because it leaves an odor in the house, so I end up cooking on the balcony. What I have been doing, I've been reading there's so many health benefits to garlic, and because I don't cook with it often enough, I actually put these in little tiny capsules. I put them in my little capsule machine, and I have at least one a day with my other condiments and pills I take. So I think garlic is going on my list of top 10. Sprinkles. Sprinkles are for winners. It may go in my top 10. We'll see. It's undecided. Okay. Italian seasoning. I like. Chef Buck mentioned in his video he prefers to have the individual ingredients that are in Italian seasoning, but I'm kind of lazy, and I've become a big fan of Italian seasoning. I kind of like McCormick's the best. It's also relatively inexpensive when you buy it in a large amount on Amazon, and it's helps many of the things that I cook. I've also started, this is not a spice, but I've turned into using Italian dressing because I make a lot of fish dishes, canned fish, and I put them on the grill and so on. I found one of the easiest ways to cook fish that are canned or not really prime fresh fish is to just marinate them in a little bit of Italian dressing and put them on the grill, and you're good to go. It's hard to fail. Red pepper flakes. The interesting thing about red pepper flakes is how long they can stay around and still be robust and flavorful and have a nice heat to them. This canister is old. I bet this thing is 10 years old. I don't use that much red pepper flakes, but it's going on my list of top 10. You need, every once in a while you need heat. Also, you can put this in your blender, your Vitamix, and make your own powder. So I think that's going to be in my top 10. Caraway seeds, it's one of my favorite seeds, but I don't have that many things I cook with it. But we'll put it in the middle pile with the sprinkles. Pieces of ground flaxseed. Everyone tells me about the wonders of flax seeds. Whenever I eat them, even when they're ground, I end up getting intestinal problems. And it's not because I don't have enough fiber in my system, because I eat a lot of fiber foods, but something about flax just doesn't go well with me. Ground cinnamon. Interesting story. When I first left my job back in 1998, I worked in chemistry manufacturing for 17 years, and the very first week after the plant closed down and I was let go, I was thinking, what am I going to do? I started two projects. One was to make my own product I could sell, and I looked on eBay, and one thing that was selling really well was pheromone solutions, fragrances, pheromone, to attract the opposite sex. And I did some research about cinnamon. Cinnamon is actually, it has components in it that are aphrodisiac. They don't make people have sex. That's not what they do. But they do, when they're exposed to the components, they become more frisky and more comfortable around people, and they're more like they had a beer, So they're more open to other people and so on. So it's a mood altering substance, and it's been around for a long time. Cinnamon is one of the oldest known commonly used spices that in recorded history. It's one of my favorite things to mix with sugar, to have on toast with butter or margarine or whatever oil flavoring. It's when I was a kid, we didn't have money, so we had two desserts. We had white bread with butter or margarine and jam or jelly, and we also had toast with butter or margarine and cinnamon. Whenever I have a pastry, I compare it to those two things. If they're not at least as good, then I don't know why would I want to have them. You can just have toast with butter and cinnamon and sugar. It's a wonderful flavor. People add it in their coffee. I used to have a girlfriend that would make Vienna coffee and add this to her coffee. And she also smoked clove cigarettes, so that's a spice, among other things. So yeah, this is going on my top 10. You got to have cinnamon. Dillweed. That's an epithet. Call somebody a dillweed. But it is good on fish, allegedly. I put it on fish all the time, and I keep trying to tell myself it's good, but it's not. It hasn't rang my bell yet. I'm gonna put it as a no, even though it's almost empty. I remember one time I was at the grocery store, and this old lady came up to the counter where you bring stuff back and complain, and she had a jar of dill pickles, and there was only one pickle left, and she wanted her money back. And the manager said, well, why are you returning these? And she said, they're too sour. He said, well, there's only one left. She said, I want my money back. I still remember that lady. Salt. That's got to go on the list. Buck mentioned Himalayan salt. The reason I like Himalayan salt, number one, you can get it at the dollar store for $1, okay? Number two, I was watching this doctor on YouTube or maybe Rumble. He's he works with pulmonary illnesses and respiratory diseases, and he was recommending a nebulizer with a solution of Lugol's iodine and hydrogen peroxide solution diluted and so on, and salt to make the saline. And he said he tested 4 different salts, and the 4 that he recommended, they all were tested. And they didn't show any heavy metals, and one of them was Himalayan. He said there was no heavy metals in the ones they tested, and he tested them repeatedly. So I'm, if it's cheap and supposedly it's pretty good for you, it's on my list because you got to have salt. Parsley flakes. We talked about garlic a minute ago. I don't have garlic breath, but I found whenever I have garlic, if I have parsley with it, I don't have that problem. But I like parsley just for parsley. As a kid, I never had it, and even as a young adult. But when I reach a certain age and something clicked, and I just end up having parsley all the time. Now, this container is about 10 years old, but what I do is I buy big bags of parsley on Amazon, a pound at a time, and then I just fill this up when it gets empty. The parsley has so many nutrients in it. It's the most nutrient dense by weight food item you can buy, as far as I've been able to find. And it adds wonderful color, and it doesn't have a strong offensive flavor. It does tend to turn things green, so if you're trying to make a cream sauce, it's not something you want to add and let it sit, because it's going to turn a tinge of a color you don't want, maybe. But it's one of my favorite things to use and cook with, and I prefer the fresh. But whenever I purchase the fresh, instead of growing it, I eventually end up having a bunch of parsley that has blades of grass in it, and it's hard to notice it's there. And if you chop it up, then you eat it, then you get an upset stomach from the grass. So that's going on my list. We mentioned the salt. Ginger. Some people like ginger, some people like Marianne. I like them both. But no, ginger is got a nice flavor. If you're making some baked goods, it's really good. I put it in my tea, but I also like it for medicinal properties, because in double-blind studies, I think they've tested this against scopolamine for motion sickness, and it was equal or as good to reduce motion sickness. Also, people who are pregnant, women who are pregnant, and or people just with upset stomachs, it's very good for digestion, and it's a fun thing to cook with. I've been wanting to make some ginger beer. I saw a recipe on YouTube. They weren't using the actual tuber of ginger. They were using a powdered ginger, and they were able to make ginger beer with it. Ginger, the actual plant, it's easy to grow. If you live in a climate that's relatively warm, where I'm at, you can buy the little tubers or bulbs of ginger in the store. It takes a while to germinate, but once it starts growing, I find almost no pest, and it will live somewhere, even like 2 hours of sunlight on my balcony, it still would grow very well. So I like ginger. Chili powder. Well, I've got the red pepper flakes, so I don't need the chili. Cloves. I do think cloves are very unique. They have a very interesting flavor. Sometimes they add a complexity to foods that nothing else will add to it. Like if you have a baked ham and certain things like that. It's a very interesting. I'm going to put it in the medium, the halfway house with the sprinkles. That's the more Italian seasoning. This is ground Nigella sativa, or black seed. I learned about this from the FLCC website when people were finding different therapies for our recent flu virus pandemic thing. And they recommended this as a therapy, but I found that this is initially used as a food item. People put it on foods when they bake with it. So I did some research, and this has been studied to death. There's so many studies that say this is good for this and good for that. So I've been trying to cook with it and find different things I can use it for. But it doesn't have a really welcoming flavor. And I want to be careful, because if something is strong enough to help you, it's also strong enough to hurt you. So you don't want to try to make yourself better and make yourself worse at the same time. But the seeds are very easy to put in the Vitamix and grind into a powder. So it's an experiment I'm still experimenting with. The fennel seed is a very, very recent addition. I've been making some experimental oat hamburgers and oat loaves and different things with grain to make them into sausages and patties and hamburgers. And the fennel seed is a welcome addition. Um, it's another thing. I think you want to be careful if you don't want to eat too much. I think it does have some harmful properties if you eat too much fennel. Maybe it's the fennel seed or the fennel oil. I don't know. Well, this is the seed, but I mean, if you eat too much of the oil that comes from the seed, I think you want to be careful with fennel. But it's a wonderful flavor. I'm not going to put it in my top 10, but it's a welcome addition. Let's put it in the medium pile. Get over there. This is cinnamon and sugar. We already talked about cinnamon. Some people say that cinnamon is helpful for people who are diabetic, although you wouldn't want to add sugar and have it on toast if you're diabetic. Sage, like the fennel, is a new addition to my spice repertoire. I've just recently been introduced to sage, and it's a little too early to tell, but I have found that the sage is kind of a mood altering substance for me. Whenever I have it, I kind of feel different in a good way. So I'm going to explore more with it, but it's going to go in my medium pile. It's not. I don't have that many uses for it, but when I make my fake hamburgers and sausages and stuff with other components, it's a very welcome addition. If you were making regular meat sausages, it's or maybe some stews, it would give a hearty flavor and a nice. It would add complexity to whatever you're making that I think is worth experimenting with. I'll put it in my medium pile. Ground allspice, I've used it once. I don't remember being emotionally involved. It didn't do it much for me. Turmeric, I have a big canister of turmeric. Where is it? Right here. I liked it so much I bought the store. Turmeric, I basically don't use it for the flavor. I use it for the coloring it gives to foods, which is a wonderful orange color. International Lifeboat Orange, abandoned ship. And it's also got a lot of health properties to it. If you look at the studies associated with turmeric, it's sort of like the Nigella sativa or black oil seeds. It's black cumin seeds. It's got a lot of things going for it, allegedly. So I'm going to have to add turmeric to my top 10. You can do a lot with it. Mustard, I don't know why I bought this. I love mustard. It's one of my favorite condiments. I wanted, I think I was going to make some sausages and add this. So that's definitely my medium pile. When you're making fake sausages, you need all the flavor you can get. Celery seed is a nice surprise. It adds more flavor than you would imagine, but it's not going to go in my top 10. Onion powder. For a long time, I never used any powdered onion. I just always had to use the fresh onion. But over time, I think because of the COVID, and I had stopped going to the store and just got my stuff delivered, and I just would run out of onions and stuff. So I just switched over to the powdered onion. And I found that powdered onion is cool because if you have something that's a lot of liquid, you can add this to it, and then it sops up some of the liquid, and it adds more flavor and also reduces the moisture content. So it's got a lot going for it. You can't have too much onion. I really love onions a lot. This is omelette powder. I buy omelette powder by the bag. It's Indian gooseberry. If you read or listen to Dr. Greger, there's like 100 studies on different things this is good for. But it's not really a spice. It has sort of a musty, powdery, puckery flavor to it. So it's not something I would say, yes, let's add this to it. We want to change the flavor. This is more like a medicinal. People even use this for their hair issues. So it's got a lot of properties, omelette powder. You want to check that out. Black pepper. Uh, I I think it's so common and it's so cheap that people sort of it doesn't get the respect it deserves. Really good black pepper. Um, it's uh, it's a really good spice. One of my favorites. Cayenne pepper, same thing. I have the powdered pepper flakes, so I don't really need to make that. Vanilla. Buck didn't mention vanilla, but vanilla is one of my favorite things to cook with, if I can find something to add it to. Because it brings back memories first of all, because it's something from childhood. But the interesting thing about vanilla, like scientifically, the aroma or the scent that's in vanilla can be detected by humans in smaller quantities than any other known natural substance. It's a really extraordinary item, vanilla. I've actually bought vanilla bean from Madagascar and had it shipped here. Shipped here. It came in the mail. It came in an envelope, and it was easy to make. You just put the vanilla beans into a empty glass jar with a lid and add some rum and let it sit long enough, and you can make your own vanilla flavoring. And it's just when I was making my homemade aphrodisiac to sell on eBay back in 1999. Vanilla and cinnamon were two of the ingredients I added because I used to have this girlfriend. She would make her own fragrance out of the patchouli oil and vanilla and cinnamon, and that was back in my hippie days. That was a wonderful fragrance. But as far as cooking with it, yeah, I like vanilla. I'm gonna have to keep it in the top 10. Ground thyme, I just I never. It just no, it's not working for me. Cocoa, that's definitely a flavoring, and it's from a bean, but it's not really a spice, I guess. But you can do things with it more than put in dairy products. It's a very interesting thing to cook with. This is, Buck mentioned his wife's nutritional yeast flakes. I recently started using these, and I also use them with popcorn, but I found that if I make a white bean soup, I can put this in there, and it gives it more of a deeper, complex flavor. It adds another more heartiness to this bean soup with just a couple spoonfuls. And I've been also making a fish spread that I add a little bit of flakes to it, and it makes the spread a little thicker, and it gives it a more of a complex flavor. What else do we got going here? Well, since we're talking about fish, I have organic kelp powder. This is basically a medicinal supplement, but if you add just a tiny bit into any fish stews or something, you will add a wonderful ocean goodness, seaweed aroma and flavor to it that you will not be able to substitute with any other known substance. Ginger powder. Oh, this is sort of like American soy sauce for me. Worcestershire sauce. It's got a wonderful history to it. It's got a unique flavor. It will brown things up like soy sauce, but it doesn't have, I don't think, as much salt as soy does. And it's got a flavor you can't get from other condiments. And I think it's going to have to go in my top 10. So did that cover them all? Well, I think if it didn't, that's good enough. So guys, it's been fun talking about food and spices. I hope you enjoyed it at Robb's Homemade Life. Put on new stuff every single week. Been doing it for, how long have I been doing it for, Mr. Cook? 15 years. Okay. What about you, Hawaiian lady? He's been too long in this kitchen. He's got to get outside. Okay, guys, time to go. Hope you enjoyed the video, and put on new stuff every week, and y'all come back, watch more. Take care. Go check out Buck's channel and his video, and also Brad's. All right, guys, take care. See you out there.